Nubook 1, From Then to Now, Part 27. I stopped there to see how I was doing with my young audience. I looked up from the reading to see most of them with their mouths open. My guess was that they had never heard of anything like I just read to them before. The cat was lying behind my desk and said, "Very good, Mr. Teacher. I think you've got their attention." Then I wanted to know how they felt about the story so far. "Does anyone have a question?" I asked. Susan raised her hand first, and then stood up. "That was real different, Mr. Golden Wing. I have never heard a story like that before, and I really liked it," she said, as she began to laugh, and clapped her hands together. Then the other children did the same. They were all laughing and saying how they wanted to hear more about Flying Feather and his many adventures in the other worlds. "Okay, I will write some more and tell the story of Flying Feather a little each day, after we do our regular studies," I said, as I was now experiencing a real joy being with the children. As the children were leaving the room, Susan stopped and asked me, "Mr. Golden Wing, I fly in my dreams. Is that what you meant about the inner?" I was a little surprised at what she said, and then asked her if she could stay after school for a few moments and tell me about some of her experiences. "I can stay and tell you a lot of things," she said. I could tell that Susan was a very aware being. In her body form, she was 12 years old, and seemed to be very capable of almost anything. I waited until the rest of the children left, and then talked with Susan. "Let's sit, and you can tell me whatever you want, Susan," I said. She was very polite, as we both sat at a bench seat along the window. "I fly all the time in my dreams, Mr. Golden Wing. I have told my parents about the experiences I have had, but they just think I am making things up. To them it's a fantasy stage I am going through. My mum had flying dreams when she was young. She told me about them many times. She used to make up little stories to tell me as I was going to sleep each night. I liked the ones about flying, so I started doing it. It was easy. But now I really can't say anything to my parents, because everything is seen their way. Some day I will have my own life like you, and I will teach my children about wonderful things too. I love my parents, but I know what is real and right for me. They have tried to teach me about their religion, but it seems so hard for me. I like what I do when I am alone with my own life. I have friends. In my dreams I meet, and it's always fun, and I can do and have whatever I want in them, she said as she was giggling. You are not alone, Susan. I fly in my dream visions all the time. I know what you are going through. Most people do not accept what I am telling them either. What you are experiencing is another part of yourself that the little Susan who lives here doesn't really understand, because you haven't been properly taught about how much more there is for you. But the good part is, you are already doing it. What people have been taught about the mysteries of life, as they have been termed, are usually a lot of fragments of the original teachings that were presented to people at different times throughout history. So many people consider limited written doctrine to correlate to the true reality that life is, I said. I am so glad you understand these things, Mr. Golden Wing. We can be great friends and share our experiences, she said as she smiled. Of course we can. You are going to learn a whole lot this year, and from now on, Susan. A few things to know about history and what took place, as some of us have read about how Moses parted the sea, and Jesus walked on water and healed many people, and also what the other saints did while they were on earth. Those were events that took place at that time. Those past events are mainly part of the physical phenomena that most people look to as some kind of ultimate experience. But what is not understood is that they apply to this temporary life only, and no further. What you and I are experiencing within us is the freedom and opportunity that has been presented down through the ages to so many. But the original meaning has been lost and changed over the centuries, so most people have no clue how to connect with their real awareness. I want to share the freedom of opportunities with those who are truly interested in learning about the benefits that already exist for themselves. That is why I wrote the story. I wanted to see who would be paying attention. The first part of the idea is to get people to wonder about what you are presenting, and then see if they are interested. Those who are, like yourself, will be shown that whatever wonders you want in your life, that are all possible, but not always with this body that lives here. You have a wonderful heart, and you are open to the wonders that life already is. That is why you are able to do what you do, I said. Wow, Mr. Goldenwing, you know a lot. I think we are going to have a lot of fun while you are here. Miss Sonia never talked about anything but the same old assignments. She read us stories and things, but what you are teaching is so much more fun, said Susan. I liked to see the joy in her eyes and expression. It was so much fun listening to this little girl and experiencing her enthusiasm. Susan, why don't you write down a few of your flying experiences and share them with the class? Would you want to do that? I asked. That would be great, Mr. Golden Wing. I like telling about the things I do. I would like to be a writer some day, and an artist too, she said. Great, I'll see you tomorrow. And how about this? For now, let's just keep these ideas at the school. We don't want to alert anyone who would have a hard time understanding what we are doing in our personal lives. Is that okay with you? I asked. Sure, Mr. Golden Wing. I understand. I already know how my parents are, and I don't tell them everything either, she said, and then we both laughed as she went out. After she left, I lay down for a while and took a rest. The cat came over and had a word to say, so I sat up and listened. Very good, Goldie. You do have the courage to present the value. I smiled and then laid my head on the bed. I was rather exhausted. I was just about to fall into a nice siesta when Rosa came into the school. Goldie, are you here? She said, rather loud. I wanted to pretend I was asleep, but instead I said, Hello, Rosa. I'm over here, taking a break from the day. She walked back and sat at the little table I had. I bought you some supper, Goldie, your favourite, rice and beans, with some salsa and tortillas, she said, as I was ready to sail off. That sounds great, Rosa. Can I sit here on the bed while we eat and talk? I asked. Sure, Indian boy. I had a long day too. A lady ordered some special material that took 3 weeks to get here, and after she looked at it, she didn't like it. It was what she ordered, but she made a big fuss about not wanting to pay for it, because now she had changed her mind. I was trying to calm her down for the longest time. Finally, the owner of the store took care of her. I was exhausted after dealing with her. Anyhow, how are you doing with the children? She asked. So far, I am having a good time with them. It's hard to believe, but all of them are very well adjusted, I said. Well then, what Sonia has done has paid off, because she used to tell me what she had to go through to get the children to pay attention to her and do their assignments, she said. Really? It looks as though I got lucky then, because she has done a fine job. Have you heard about her lately? I asked. I will be going home on the weekend to find out. Do you want to come with me? She asked. Sure, that will be fun, I said. Oh, by the way, several of the young ladies in the town stopped by the store and asked me about you. They wanted to know if you were seeing anyone. Are you? She asked, smiling at me. You know what? I think going to see your parents this weekend would be a really good idea, I said, as we both laughed. This is a holiday weekend, so we have 4 days to play, plenty of time to get there and back. The store will be closing early on Friday, about noon. The owner said I could have the weekend off. So, would you like to leave Friday? She said. That sounds fine with me. I know the children would be happy to leave early. Besides, I'm the teacher, and I can do it, I said, as we both laughed while eating our supper. That evening, after Rosa had left, I wrote until almost midnight about Flying Feather. I wanted to be ready for the children, and especially Susan, and what she would be telling about her experiences. That evening I went to the other side, and met Shiss on the beach. She was already in the shallow water, walking along the shoreline. Hello, Goldie. It's another wonderful day here, she said, with a bit of laughter in her voice. I walked with her, and we talked a bit. You may need a good friend to be with as you grow older, Goldie. The earth can be a lonely place, and you will need the aid of someone who will stand by you, she said. I'm all right, Shiss. Besides, I always have you here, I said. I am always here for you, but the earth is different. You will be going through a lot before you are finished this lifetime, and a good friend will work wonders for your motivation, she said. I wasn't really getting what she was saying, but I would just wait and see what the future would bring. We walked for the longest time, and I told her about the story I wrote. She really liked it, and said that it would help the children see more clearly about what is taking place within them. She said that Rebazar Tars and the guides would assist the children on the inner. We strolled along the beach for the rest of the time that I was with her, and then I had to leave. It was soon the next morning, and I was up early again. I prepared for the school day, and soon everyone was arriving. As the day went on, I watched the children very closely, and how they responded to certain ideas that came to them. They were all so individually unique in their mannerisms, and how they related to each other. I was amazed myself how well behaved they were. When I first started teaching, I wasn't sure that would be the outcome, but I can see now that it is something very special. I can sense they want what all beings want, the challenge of the unknown. What I am learning for myself is about the fear that has been established about the hidden part of life. Most people are actually taught this fear, and so when they have the opportunity to explore, they are afraid, and they label what they don't know or understand as bad or evil. After lunch, I read what else I had written about Flying Feather. The children all loved it and wanted to hear more. But I only had so much. I will be writing more, but for now, I would like to hear from some of you. Would you like to share something with the class, Susan? I asked. Oh yes, Mr. Golden Wing, she said. I wrote an experience I had last night about what you and I talked about. This is what I wrote. Before I went to sleep, I began to imagine myself in a happy place, where I could play and meet new friends, and then fly. I thought a lot about what I wanted it to be like, and then I fell asleep, and I found myself in a lovely area that had very large green fields. There were a lot of trees and a lake with the bluest of water. I could hear birds singing. In the middle of all of this, there was several nice swing sets. They were so neat and clean, not like the ones my dad built me, but so much better. There was another girl about my age, already swinging. I went over and told her my name. She was very nice, and then told me her name, but when I woke up I couldn't remember it. We both played on the swings for a while, and then we went to look for butterflies. She said she had been in this place many times, and she had seen the most beautiful butterflies. We walked for a ways until we came to an area that had many different coloured flowers, and as we got closer I could see there were all kinds of different butterflies that were hopping and fluttering from one flower to another. We stood and watched them as they moved about. After a while, the butterflies began to leave, but they didn't just fly off, they flew in the sky. As I was watching them go up, the girl said, "Let's follow them, shall we?" And then she simply flew in the air after them. Then I did the same thing, and we were both flying and following the butterflies above the tree-tops and into the sky. As we were flying, I asked her if she knew where the butterflies lived. Oh yes, they live in a wonderful place that exists in the clouds. I have been there before. You will like it. Follow me, and we will go there, she said. I was all excited as I flew with her to where the butterflies lived. We finally came to some very big clouds that were very colourful. I watched as the butterflies flew over the clouds, and then disappeared for a moment until we caught up with them. As we flew up and over the clouds, a city that was so beautiful began to appear. It had huge castles that sparkled, and there were large green grassy areas everywhere. I could also see people below. We followed the butterflies to a lovely garden that was full of beautiful flowers. The butterflies landed on the flowers and seemed to rest. We soon landed on the grassy area by the flowers. I could smell the wonderful fragrances that were in the air from the flowers. I stood there for a moment and looked around at the wonderful place I was in. I had flown in my dreams before, but I had never been to a place like this. I asked the girl I was with the name of this place, and she said that I could call it whatever I wanted to. Several lovely people came up to us and said hello. I don't remember what they said, but they were very nice and so clean looking. I wanted to see the inside of the big castles and all the other things there were, but as I followed the girl to where we were going, my mother began shaking me, and I woke up. Susan said. That was great, Susan. You told that so well. You will be the great writer you want to be some day, I said, as I gave her a little applause, and then so did the rest of the children.